the thing is back on. I was saying before you said yes, there's this thing on my screen again, but back at it. All right. Welcome back. I am your host, Dr. Jake Taylor Jacobs, president of COO SIPS Healthcare. And this show is all about tackling the toughest challenges in sterile processing. Whether you're on the front lines or making high-level decisions, we're here to equip you with real solutions to rescue and elevate your department. Each episode, I'm joined by our Director of Clinical Compliance, the GOAT, Sharon Green Golden, a leader in compliance and regulatory standards, and our Director of Clinical Operations, the Derek Jones Sr., a specialist in operational efficiency and team development. Together, we break down the critical issues affecting CSPD departments and provide actionable strategies to help you stay ahead. SPD 911 isn't just a show, it's your emergency response for sterile processing. We tackle compliance concerns, streamline operations, and help you grow as a leader in the field. If you want to participate live and ask your questions, join the Executive Edge community. It is free and the only way to engage with us directly. Every episode, we'll break down compliance and operational issues with expert guidance, because when it comes to sterile processing, every decision matters. Join us live every week on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time to catch the greatest Central Sterile Processing live show on planet Earth. SPD 911, here we are. What's going on, team? How y'all doing?
Good afternoon.
Doing great. Good afternoon.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to get better at the introduction. Every time.
Oh, you cold. Hey, you got it. You got it.
You know.
Hey, one thing though, I one day I'm gonna get that GOAT status on my name. Right
not
now.
yet. Not yet.
That's
That's
all right. I
know,
get it one day. Right.
Yeah. Listen. One day. What do you call a baby goat?
Billy.
Let me see.
Billy goat. Call me Billy.
Hold on. I'm about to look up. I'm about to really Google baby goat right now. Baby.
Right.
What is a baby goat called?
Oh.
What is a kid? I don't want you to be called kid. You see what I'm saying?
Hey,
Listen.
Billy goat.
Listen,
Right.
I earned these stripes.
That's right. Tell them how many years, SGG.
Listen,
Get them together.
It's been 40 years.
40.
Ooh, okay. All right. All right. I surrender today.
But I can call you Himothy. I can say now,
Right,
now
Himothy.
DJ
Right.
Himothy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I appreciate that.
How y'all doing this week? How's your week going, y'all?
Mine's going good.
It's going good.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. No
Good.
complaints. Any day, any opportunity to do something better. I'm always positive and up for it. So
somebody
great.
said, "Hey, Billy."
Yeah, right. It's all good.
Hey, no, well, listen, but you don't understand this language. Ba. See, SGG understand. She understand goat. Ba.
Right. That's all right.
So DJ, you're on site at one of
Yes.
our sites.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is it cold there?
Well, actually, it isn't cold. We're in average about 45 degrees here. It's beautiful. It's actually beautiful here, to believe it or not, especially in close to the end of February. So it's the weather's not the challenge. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, we're gonna talk about some stuff today. SGG, how you doing? Is it cold where you are?
I'm doing fine. We were almost 70 degrees yesterday. We are recouping from the snowstorm and running.
Well, y'all didn't ask me, but I'm doing well. I'm doing good.
Okay.
I know. You're
I
doing
can
well.
tell
What's
you're doing well.
that temp? Right. You look well rested.
It's about 70 degrees. Y'all don't see my chocolateness gleaming right now. That thing is just it's just looking real melanin. Just real melanin. Hey y'all, so we got some good questions today. We have some really good questions, and I think that we should just go ahead and get to it. What do y'all say?
Okay.
Let's bring it on.
So listen, for everyone that's watching right now, SPD 911 isn't just a show. Like we said earlier, it's your emergency response team for sterile processing. And the biggest thing that we want to focus on is that the problems that we're dealing in sterile processing, these aren't just questions that we're receiving. These are the uncomfortable, unspoken realities of SPD that most don't want to address. But guess what? You got an SGG here, bye. You got a DJ here, bye, bye. But we're not here to play it safe. We're here to fix what's broken. So here's the scenario number one, team. The fear culture. We finna be talking. We're finna be. Lord, you hear me, SGG?
I hear you.
We're about to talk about the fear culture and speak up. And it's talked about speak up or get shut down scenarios. Many SPD professionals see dangerous shortcuts happening, improper decontamination, ignored manufacturer IFUs, outdated practices that put patients at risk. But when they try to report it, they're silenced or considered a whistleblower, and their entire career is derailed. The fear of retaliation stops techs from raising concerns, allowing these issues to continue to go unchecked. So here's the question. How can SPD professionals safely report compliance violations without fear of losing their job, being blacklisted, or becoming the department's outcast? Oh,
Okay. Good afternoon.
hey, we in it now.
Right. So let me start off by saying, where is and what level is your integrity? That will determine your altitude for this question. Now, if you find that there is a problem in following standards, best practice, evidence-based practice, and it's harming patients, or it has the ability to harm patients, your integrity determines how silent you are. Silence says that you agree. So you can't be silent and agree and then say you don't agree. Silence says you agree. So what do you have to do? Well, every hospital that I've ever worked in has a compliance 1-800 number. A 1-800 compliance number that you can call and report something. Now, the thing about reporting people is this. Have you done your true investigation to the issue, or are you reporting something you heard, but you really do not know? Do you know the standard? Okay. Do you know the standard? Are you a third-party repeater of something that is not even admissible in court? All right. So now we must determine if what we are reporting is, number one, correct. Number two, admissible in court. That tells you how far you can go. If they're doing something, if we're putting instruments together and not washing them and just going straight to the autoclave, you cannot stay at that job and be silent. You've got to call the 1-800 compliance number. If you don't want to call the compliance number at your hospital, call the 1-800 number at the state. Call the 1-800 number for whoever is your a certifying body, be it DMV, the Joint Commission. But you must report it. Now, there's steps to reporting. You first start off with your number one, your supervisor. Miss Sharon, they're not washing the instruments. They're not. I have to take my tray and go wash it personally before I can put it together. You notate that. You all write everything else down. Notate that. Send yourself an email. Do what you have to do to quantify and qualify that you made this statement. You wait a couple of days. The supervisor act like all is well. You follow what is called a chain of command. Go to the next person. And you say, for instance, I told Derek he hadn't done nothing. Now I'm going to tell Miss Sharon, she's the manager. You tell me. I say, okay, I got it. Now in a hospital, if it's something dealing with what we're doing, one piece of chain people forget would be infection control. So you told Derek, you told Sharon, nothing's happening. Now you call infection control and say, I just wanted to let you know, come down to SPD and see for yourself, but we no longer watch the instruments. That doesn't work. Then you go to the next person up, your director. Let's go to Dr. Jake. Dr. Jake, just want to let you know that I told Derek, I told Sharon, I told infection control, we're still not watching the instruments. I'm telling you, you've told Dr. Jake, now you can be like Pontius Pilate, wash your hands. You told all of them. They don't do anything. You go to the compliance 1-800 number, or you go to the state, or you go to wherever you go. But you cannot say you're compliant and say that you're doing patient care and not report it.
But SCG, Derek, I looked around. There are no jobs available in my area. I have to take care of my family.
By the means of killing other people? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That it's okay for you to take care of your family and kill mine? The job that you're doing requires, we don't take the Hippocratic oath, but it requires that you have integrity and standards. And so I didn't say you told all those people they didn't do anything. You go on about your business. I didn't say give your job up. You told them and you move on. But I'm saying at some point you have to be willing to go higher. So that's the decision you make, people, before you start this train. If you're not willing to follow it to the end, then don't start it. Because I understand you need to keep your job. But how do you work somewhere where they're doing things completely wrong that could harm a person's life? That's the part I've never understood about our job. Now, digging a hole, you might be able to dig the hole a little crooked. And that might not be bad. Nobody might not be hurt if the hole crooked. But if we put out instrumentation with bioburden and things on it that's not clean, and we put it and it goes into a patient's body, I happen to be an immunocompromised person who's had 12 surgeries. If anything falls in my body that I can't fight off, I could die. So you're going to tell me to keep your job, you're willing to kill me? You can't have it both ways. You cannot, in this instance, have your cake and eat it too. Either it's wrong or it's right. We don't have the ability, or we're not supposed to sit back and play the game. I'm not going to tell nobody, I just wait. Do you want to wait until they shut your hospital down? You won't have a job then either. And if you came to me for a job, the first question after you tell me you worked at Joe Blow's hospital, I'm going to ask you is, were you working there when they weren't cleaning the instruments? Were you there? Yeah, I was working. Oh, that's going to weigh heavy on me hiring you, because I already know I can't trust you to tell nothing, because you was happy at the hospital that wasn't cleaning instruments until somebody finally told and they shut them down. Come on, Derek.
Well, you're spot on. And I think the biggest thing is our teams or whomever has to understand that it's important to document everything. And that's the key details. That's the time, the place where the violations occurred, the people involved, and have something to support your argument so that you can provide accurate information when reporting the violation or the complaint. And then also, I think getting your HR department, because all facilities and hospitals has HR, to just support you in guiding you on how to report those violations, so that in the event you are targeted or there is a sign of retaliation, you will have your documentation, you will have a track record, a detailed reporting track of what occurred, the amount of occurrences that came about. And then you'll have that HR support to really back you and to be able to hold those accountable for the violations and be able to be your support, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and one thing that I would say is a lot of people don't take into account that we overestimate what happens in the short term, and we underestimate our value in the long term. And standing up for something and getting pushback about something that you know is integrally right that's based on regulatory standards. Okay. In the interim, it may feel like your world is going in a circle because that's the world and the environment that you're in. But please let me tell you, especially like at SIPS, there are companies out there and hospital systems out there that want people that will call things as they are. Because when we talk about professionalism, raising the standard of central sterile processing, it first means to continuously make aware of senior leadership aware, your upline aware, your CNO aware, your head of Periop aware, that you are aware of regulatory standards. And that just as they're held to regulatory standards and regulations, we are too as well. And the more of us that are willing to say, we're not cutting corners, the more it will force hospital systems to allocate budget, resources, talent, income, certification requirements, and degrees or whatever. They'll make those things a lot more of a standard for what we're doing versus the latter. And so it's kind of like one of those things. You can't talk out of your mouth and you're behind at the same time. You have to be willing to be willing to stand up for something, or you'll fall for everything. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yes.
So I wanted to share this. Yeah. I have a physician. It's been 15 years ago that the standard is if any instruments are brought into your hospital, the standard at my hospital was, if instruments are brought into my hospital from another hospital, we must wash them and process them at that hospital. That's our policy. So the doctor decided he needed some instruments. They happened to have been loaner trays. The loaner vendor showed up with the trays. There's no communication from the OR. They just say, these trays are coming in. You all need to process. You all need to get the trays ready for the case. So we did our process. We took them to decon. We cleaned them. We sent them over to the clean side. We got them assembled, and we put them in the autoclave. As soon as they got in the autoclave, about 15 minutes in, a doctor shows up at the door. He's looking for Miss Golden because he won't know why his instrument's not ready. He ready to do his case. And I said, well, sir, they're not ready because they're in the autoclave, and you know, we had to wash them and we had to assemble them and whatever. And he says to me, the director told me to tell you to cut the autoclave off. We're going to flash them upstairs. This is about 10 trays. I said, the director told you what? He said, we're going to flash them upstairs. Now, we haven't used the word flashing forever. I said, I don't think the director told you that because that's not our policy or our standard. He yelled. He said, yes, it is. Oh, he just went off. I took a deep breath. And I went and got, I said, I'll be right back. I went and got a little notebook. I came back. I stood in front of the doctor and I said, sir, you are absolutely right. You're in charge. Now tell me again what it is you want me to do. So I got to write this down for the lawsuit. He said, what lawsuit? I said, the one we're going to have when I tell the patient that you said you was in charge and for me to cut the autoclave off, bring the instruments upstairs and flash them. He looked at me. He turned around. He walked out into the hall and screamed real loud. He went on back upstairs. When the instruments were ready, I personally delivered them. And I met him in the hall and he said to me, Miss Golden, I'm sorry, you're right. He said, I remember one time we got some instruments from another hospital and when we opened them up, they were dirty. I said, so you understand the standard, sir. We work for the patient. And at that moment, my integrity was on the line with him because he was the doctor. I felt I was professional enough because I met him with, you are in charge, sir. Tell me what you want me to do. I'm writing it down because that's documentation, Derek, for the lawsuit. I'm telling you why I'm writing it now. I'm not writing it for my book. I'm writing it for the lawsuit because my integrity will not be compromised. I understand people, but every hospital has a compliance number.
That's right.
We don't use them enough. What we do is we go around the corner and tell Lucy and Mary Jo, and Mary Jo and Lucy, and Mary Jo and Lucy can't help you. We never sometimes tell as Dr. Jake said, we never go up high enough. We accept what's being told, what we're being told to do. Would you accept the brake man not making sure you have brake fluid in your car? Once you turned over in the street, are you going to accept that when he says that's just how we did it? And I was scared for my job, so I killed your family? Is that going to be acceptable?
Absolutely not.
So why is it acceptable in sterile processing? I don't know about ditch digging. That's not my thing. In sterile processing, to sit back and just let it go, and then go and tell other people on the side they don't do things right at that hospital, but you work there. The day is you.
And I want to say this before we move on to the next scenario and question. I hear people say all the time, Derek and SGG, and they typically like to separate things. They'll say, "Oh, I work a job there, but I have my own business here. What they do there, I get the check, but over here, I can control." And I always like to push back to say, wherever you signed a contract is your business. It's your business.
Yes.
That's the deal you negotiated, and the service that you agreed to provide to that company, to that hospital, to that organization. There's an exchange that you had. You negotiated the price that you were comfortable with getting compensated for doing your job. They gave you a JD on what they required for you to have a knowledge of and to do. It is your job to say, hey, based on my job description, and run your position like a business. Based on my JD, I'm supposed to be aware of and have recognition of and understanding of this job. In order to do this job, I had to be certified to have this. In order to be certified, I also have to be aware of all the regulatory bounds and recommendations to be able to do this job efficiently and effectively in accordance to the industry I'm serving, which happens to be healthcare. And because of that, like you say all the time, SGG, I understand you want me to do this in 2 hours, but Amy Standard says I have to do it in 4. And here's the other piece. When you passively do your job, you won't actively be respected. And there's a favorite little message I have in one of my favorite books. It says that your name is more precious than silver or gold. Mm-hmm. And I will much rather my name be a name of above board and standard than to be a name that everybody feels like I can will and do anything to get you to say yes about. Because that person, it may look like they're getting ahead, but the respect that you have from your peers will begin to dwindle faster than you can imagine. So when you're in your career or you're in that position, remember the value of your name. When you leave there, what will people say about you? Now, I will say that there is a such thing as is adhering to protocol. In my favorite book, it says, give Caesar what is due to Caesar, meaning you have to adhere to the lay of the land. And you also have to adhere to your policies and your commitment to the contract that you signed. If it says that you cannot go outwardly and talk about a whole bunch of stuff, or you will be sued or whatever, and you signed it without pushback, you have to go through the proper channels that you're required to go through and handle your business based by the contract and all the words that you signed when you came to an agreement. So you can't be mad at your manager and then go to social media and talk mess about your manager when you did nothing with notating. As Derek said, what's your paper trail look like? When you first saw it, did you document it? Mm-hmm. Or did you just say, oh, that's just something? Because every time you pushed it away, it's every time, like SGG said, you agreed to it. So what are you doing to build up your documentation portfolio. And so when you got to present it, you can present it not from feelings, but as a business person presenting facts.
Right. Facts. And understand, people
Yep.
sue everybody nowadays. So you can sit back and be complicit. And when it all boils down, understand, people like to throw everybody under the bus.
Come on.
And routinely, SPD is under the bus. I don't know if we ever get in. We always under the bus when there's a problem.
That's
and
right.
they're going forward and backwards. So you have got to, as Dr. Jake says, Derek says, document. I said it. Follow the chain of command. What did it say are the steps? Derek said HR. What did it say are the steps? My job description said I'm supposed to clean, assemble, process. Didn't say nothing about dirty instruments in the autoclave. I can't justify that. And so when they come to me, I'm saying the instruments was dirty. I can't do them. Why? Why are you so slow, Ms. Golden? Because I'm having to clean the instruments that come over because they're still dirty. And we need to fix that. But before I go and say anything, Dr. Jake and Derek, before I put it out, I will have done an investigation.
That's right.
What is our policy? What are we really doing? What are the steps? Because you've always got to cover yourself.
That's right.
I didn't go to the
Facts.
news right away. I did all these other steps. And because at the end of the day, it is about patient safety.
Yep.
Patient safety. I agree.
That's right. All right, y'all.
GOAT.
We're going to go to scenario number 2. We have somebody here that says, what about the hidden epidemic? Mental health in SPD. Here's the situation. The high pressure, low recognition nature of SPD creates extreme burnout, anxiety, and depression. SPD professionals are dealing with surgical emergencies, impossible deadlines, blame from the OR, and unrealistic productivity demands, often while being completely unseen and unheard. Unlike doctors and nurses, there are no mental health support systems in place for SPD workers. The question is, what would it take for hospitals to recognize mental health struggles in SPD and provide real resources like counseling, stress management, workplace wellness programs, or will SPD professionals always be treated as disposable labor? So, DJ, the question is, what would it take for hospitals to recognize mental health struggles in SPD and provide real resources like counseling, stress management, and workplace wellness programs?
Well, that's a tough one, because quite often when hospitals bring on talent or technicians, we're looking to serve a need and to really get the job done, and we don't always value or evaluate work-life balance for our team. So I think the first thing hospitals need to do is to make it a requirement for our leaderships to, number one, perform regularly scheduled evaluations for our teams to really show them how they're performing and to give them that level of a comfort in recognizing areas they can improve, or just giving them recognition for things that they're doing well so that they can see growth opportunities. And then number two, just acknowledging them by showing appreciation. Sometimes we often just want to throw pizza parties and give out meals to all staff to show our appreciation, but I think we need to do a little bit more. I think we need to incorporate for technicians maybe some group activities, um, um, acknowledge them by celebrating individuals. I think we just got to figure out a way to change our culture to show more appreciation so that we can keep our SPD members engaged, keep them focused on the mission, which is to provide, quality patient care, and keep them happy in their roles. And then finally, just putting funding or money towards spa days or treatment or some sort of bringing in outside resources to help with coaching and guiding and having group discussions to allow our teams to have access to people that could help them cope with stress, help them cope with outside work challenges. It's a little bit difficult. I would like to hear Ms. Green Golden on this one, as you know, she may have seen other walks of life with some of those things.
So SGG, the question is, what would it take for hospitals to recognize mental health struggles in SPD and provide real resources like counseling, stress management, and workplace wellness programs?
I find this intriguing because I presented on the national stage mental health in SPD. I think it was in 2022 at our national meeting. People don't like to talk about mental health. Now, the question as it is number one, the hospital isn't going to recognize nothing. This is all about human to human. And what it takes is it takes you as a leader to know your people. You know your people. I knew my people. I knew when Lucy's eye was crossed that she must have a headache. I knew when Mary Jo came in and she didn't say good morning that something was wrong. So you work enough that you know your people like parents know their children. You must not only be willing to recognize that I have a problem today. For instance, your high-hanging fruit is now low-hanging. They're making mistakes. They're making errors. Something has changed. You have to be willing not to get into somebody's personal business, but be willing to use, Derek, as he would say, HR to follow the recommended practice for what you do when people need help. And in this day and age, when a lot of SPD techs work two jobs. I know mine did. They left my job, went to another job, or they came to my job from another job, because you need two jobs to live. I had to be able to be willing to notice that there's a change and be willing to help. Not just notice, not go talk about Dr. Jake, but be willing to notice. Now, I went as far, Dr. Jake, is to go and take a course on mental health first aid so that I could learn the steps of somebody in a crisis and what you need to do. I don't diagnose anybody. I come and say, bring Dr. Jake into the office. We shut the door and I say, Dr. Jake, I noticed something is wrong. Your work is suffering. You're not adding to the company anymore. You don't have anything to say. Is there anything I can do to help you? Because you see, when you struggle and don't do your job right, we have to redo the tray you did. And so we're not doing anything. You know, we got to redo the tray you did because you're not paying attention. It's not helping us help the patient. And what is it you need? People throw out employee assistance. Sometimes that's good, but most of us working these jobs have some sort of insurance. Do you need to take a day off? Do you need to handle some business? Do you need to go to EAP? Do you need to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist? What do you need? I'm willing to support you to that end. But I would stand up in the floor, you all, and tell my staff, all of us can't have a mental health day on the same day. The patient needs us. So I understand you need a day. There are stresses. We're asking you to do a job. We're asking you to be responsible. We're holding you accountable. And at home, your house is falling apart. And your family is asking you to be accountable. They're asking you to be responsible. And so all of that comes in on you and you can't handle it. Well, as they say, there are programs out there. I'm going to get you into them. Now, I happen to have worked for a company that believed in pastoral care. I send my people over to the pastor's little office all the time. Find which pastor do you like? Go over there. Talk to them. Now, let me be clear about something. I noticed my people had problems. And I wanted to help them to get better, but I never wanted to know the problem. Do y'all understand me? I'm not the pastoral care person. I'm not the psychiatrist or the psychologist. And I really don't want to know your inner business, other than I'm sad because my mama died. Okay, I can take that. But I don't want to know that your husband took the money and ran away and he got 5 girlfriends and 2 babies. I don't want to know that. I want you to go talk to somebody that can help you. I don't want to know that you feel like you're going down a black hole. And every day that you come to this job, the hole gets deeper. I want you to tell me, I have a problem, Miss Golden. I need some help. And I'm going to guide you towards that help. Because, see, standard operating procedure says I manage SPD, not mental health. But I'm willing to look at your mental issue and provide the guidance according to the steps from HR and what I've learned by getting my mental health certificate. I can help you. I think we have to help people because we all have bad days. We all have to be willing to admit we have some mental issues. I've had to take at some point in my life medicine for depression myself. I'm not that big or bad that I've never been depressed. But thank God I was able to notice it and willing to go for help. Everybody's not willing to go for help. You have to guide them. You know, I called the people and said, I'm depressed. I can't get my head off the pillow. I'm trying to buy Uzis on eBay. And they say, come in here. Is you trying to kill yourself? No, I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm willing to kill other people. Because as Dr. Jake says in his favorite book, I can repent for murder. I don't know if I'll be able to repent if I kill myself. So I'm willing to kill the other people. So they told me, get in here because you need help. Mental health is something that people always don't recognize in themselves. And my job is to know you enough to know you have a problem, Dr. Jake, and you need help, and to guide you.
And I'm going to say this from the business side. In answering the question, what would it take for hospitals to recognize mental health struggles in the SPD and provide real resources like counseling, stress management, and workplace wellness programs? Or will SPD professionals always be treated as disposable labor? And I would say this. First and foremost, the moment you put your mental health in anyone else's hands but your own, you've already lost. The job can't help you be better, baby. Your leader can only give you resources and guidance. You yourself have to know what your boundaries are and your capabilities. Let me tell you some of the main reasons why people typically have this pushback in dealing with this. It's when you bit your tongue in areas you were supposed to speak up. It was saying yes to contracts you should have never said yes to. It was saying yes to working late when you know good and gosh darn well that would affect how your children were dealing with you and your spouse without considering them. And a lot of us, in an effort to look good with where you work, you forget or you negate also considering how it will affect your outside world. And that's on you to be able to check and to be able to determine. That's the first step. The moment you start to take back your belief in wellness, proper balance of work life based on the agreement that you agree to, let me tell you, just as the contract protects you as an employee, it can expose you also as an employee. So when I'm signing this contract, happy to have a job, have you actually looked at the benefits packages? Have you asked them, what do you all, invest into psyche and what are all these other things? Because when you tap into the benefits, most people never even take advantage of PTO. If you have paid time off, take paid time off. A lot of people's benefits packages also gives you, when you're dealing with bereavement, you're dealing with labor, you're dealing with all these other things. I would much rather take that than to stay here working to create a false perspective or a false understanding of that I'm Superman or Superwoman, because now people will try to hold you to that standard. So you got to look at that contract and says, if the JD says this, your benefits package say this, as you expect me to adhere to the JD, I expect you to honor my benefits and not judge me because I'm taking all of my PTO. Because you got to pay attention to the long term. I wrote a couple of things down as we were talking about this. The second thing, mission. A lot of people go to work just to make money. That's why you're depressed. I'm just taking this job, and I'm taking this job because they pay well. You left a job that had great culture for development of you for greed because another job paid well. Now you're dealing with remorse. Now you're dealing with regret. Now you're bitter. You're angry. Now you're nitpicking in areas you never would have before. All because your ambition cost you your peace. So what I will always tell people, don't let your ambition cost you your peace. So you have to understand, what are you in it for? Do you believe in the cause of the department? And if you do, pay attention to the mission more than you're paying attention to the day-to-day. Because in every job, the day-to-day is a lot to deal with. In every job, the day-to-day is a lot to handle. In every job, the day-to-day, you have pieces that you love that make it worth coming back the next day. You have other elements that make you want to jump off a bridge. Baby, don't jump. Just come back again the next day. And then the third thing is, yes, it also is on your leader. The problem is we have a lot of leaders, and we'll talk about this later, again, that are in certain positions, but they have not let go of their entry-level ideology or perspective. When you are a manager in up, your business is not the task. Your business is the people. Just as you used to pay attention to every tray, you should be paying attention to quality and improvement of your people as a manager and as a director. That's your focus. So your job every day is to do a litmus test with your people just as much as you did a litmus test with your trays. You should know what everyone's cadence is, just like every surgeon, right? Every surgeon got a type of way that they like their trays. Every OR is different on how they want to accept and accept it, and it's also dependent on who's the supervisor or the retrieving OR liaison of that shift. So if you have to be aware of those things as a leader, now I'm calling you out. Stop leading everyone with this custom one-size-fit-all mentality. Everybody needs a personalized touch, just like your trays need personalized IFUs. Every instrument need a different IFU. Some are similar SGG, but it doesn't mean that it's the same.
That's right.
So I have to figure out the instruments as a leader. Each one of your assets are an instrument to your department. How does that instrument love to be inspired? How does that instrument love to be corrected? How does that instrument love to be developed? How does that instrument love to be poured into or chastised? I have to figure out each of these human instruments, and as a leader, I have to now get to know them just as much as I got to know those instruments. And then lastly, I want to say this. If it ever got to a point where your livelihood or your stress was so great that you can no longer perform your job to the highest capability, especially in an environment that can cause harm to other humans, that's when you step away. That's when your integrity checks in. Because God doesn't respect person. He respects principle. That's why in my favorite book, it says that the wealth of the righteous is stored up in the hands of the wicked. It's not saying that because he honors the wicked. But some people that are wicked have amazing God-like principles. They have standards and integrity that they will not cross. So God honors that. So my question to you, what are your standards and what are your standards and integrity when it comes to you protecting yourself as well as protecting the patients that we're supposed to be supporting? What are those standards? You know what that forces us to do, SGG? To learn our laws and regulatory standards.
Yes.
Because as a manager, as a leader, as a professional, as a technician, if everyone knew the regulatory standards, you can hold everyone in your upline accountable to say, yo, it takes 32 FTEs to run this department. You have us at 25. No, sir, no, ma'am. We can't do that. No,
You're
sir, no,
absolutely
ma'am.
right.
Yep.
You're right. And it still stands, and I'm just agreeing with you. I am agreeing with you. You have to know your people, and you know them. You know the low hanging fruit. You know the middle hanging fruit.
That's
and
right.
You know the high hanging fruit, and you know when there's a difference in their walk and their talk. And as Dr. Jake says, as a leader, you have to be willing to support them in what is needed for them to be healthy mentally. Because if they're not healthy mentally, they're not going to do the job.
That's right.
Their trade didn't have an integrator in it. Integrator, they forgot 10 instruments.
That's right.
So they have to be aware and in the present moment to do their job, which affects, at the end of the day, a patient at some time. So yes, I never had any problem letting anybody off for mental health day. In fact, I force you to go home. Go home, right. Do what you need to do. Because as I said earlier, you're not doing us any good if we have to redo the work that you did because you weren't in the present, in the moment, and your tray got to the OR without an indicator and 10 instruments. You set all of us back, the patient, the doctor, the team. So I need everybody mentally healthy. And you know, I never was angry with somebody that told me I'm not mentally able to do it today, Ms. Gold. Please get your hat and coat and go home.
Yeah.
Because there have been people mentally unstable in hospitals that have come in with guns and shot somebody.
That's right.
The nurse was killed. The doctor was killed. I don't need you being so mentally unstable. You go get your gun out the trunk.
That's right.
So and that's why you have to know your people.
That's right.
You need to listen. See, I would walk up on my people having conversations about crazy stuff. I'd be listening. What you say? You got what? Because I need to put that in my back pocket of my brain to say, you know what?
Yeah.
When Derek's eyes start crossing, something's wrong.
That's right.
And I'm gonna help Derek get out.
That's right.
And I'm gonna help him get out.
And we have to understand that leadership is an active sport. It's not a passive by a passive time. It's an active sport, which means as a leader, before you decide to take that leadership role, you have to understand that you have to be active in all things, especially when it comes to managing your people. In my favorite book, SCG and Derek, it says, would you not leave to go find the one that's lost? And the reference was to sheep. Was it with a sheep herder?
Not
go find the one lamb that's led astray.
Leave the 99.
Do you know how intentional a shepherd has to be to leave the 99 to go find the one that's astray?
Yes.
That means that you're paying attention to everything. It's 99 sheep. They all doing the different things. And you have your support resources. But when you're looking around and you start to see, something's off. This person's here. Are you willing to be that good of a leader to leave the 99 to go find the one? And here's the biggest piece that you fail to realize is that when your team sees that you're willing to leave the 99 to go find the one, do you know what that does to your culture?
Yes.
It lets them know, oh, I got a leader that cares. And do you know what happens when people finally find a leader that actually cares about them? They'll run through brick walls to make sure that you don't look crazy.
Yes.
And you don't do that by leading with authority and leading with focusing on task. You do that with leading with understanding people's heart. And when you understand people's heart, it's only the heart that creates opportunities for real change. DJ, you got something else before we move?
No, I just want to say you was talking to somebody. I don't know who it is who's tuned in live, but somebody needed to hear this particular scenario and segment. So we talking to somebody.
Yes.
Good message.
Yes.
All right, y'all. We got the next scenario. The real cost of silent failures. Hey, listen, let me stop here real quick. Every single person right now that's listening to this, as you can tell, this isn't your normal SPD show. We working on your heart, your skills, your EQ, your IQ, and your belief in what we do. But if you want to ask live questions about scenarios and things that you want us to answer live that you're struggling with, go to SPD911.com right now and join our free Executive Edge community. In this community, we challenge each other, we push each other, but most importantly, we support each other in our growth to changing the industry that we all care about. So let's go to the next scenario. DJ, we're going to start with you. Did I start with DJ last time or SGG?
You started with me. Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting with SGG now. You ready? SGG.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on.
We're going to talk about the real cost of silent failures, okay? So the situation is unlike the OR or ICU, where mistakes are immediately visible. SPD failures are silent, but just as deadly. A contaminated instrument, an improperly sterilized scope, or a missed implant might not cause an immediate catastrophe, but weeks later, a patient dies from an infection. The question I have for you, SGG and Derek, why do hospitals tolerate reactive patient safety instead of proactive SPD improvements? And why are SPD leaders only called in after a lawsuit that has been filed instead of being part of the hospital-wide preventative strategies and solutions?
This is a big question. We probably need a whole session just for this, but Ignacio, Iggy, leave that question up there so I can read this. So this is where I'm going. Patient safety is paramount in sterile processing. What we do matters every day. We are human beings and you're dealing with the human factor. And when you're dealing with the human factor, if you don't put processes in place to check yourself, yes, things will happen. Leaders are called in. I'll try to quantify this part. We're called in when a patient, for instance, has a replacement knee surgery, and within the 30 days, they get an infection. They call us in, not for the secret answer, but for us to justify with documentation that the instruments were processed according to the IFU, and therefore it was not SPD's issue. They call us in when there's a sentinel event, meaning we're going to have a lawsuit. Someone is pursuing what happened, and they're trying to do their investigation to put the puzzle together. We as leaders, because the regular tech in SPD is never called in, we as leaders have to have our documentation, be able to locate it and come in to explain what had happened for real. People get infections, surgical site infections every day. And because we're part of the team, we could be part of the problem. But it is very hard to say when a person gets an infection after a surgery that it had anything to do with sterile processing, as long as you are able to document your processes. Now, if you know that Sharon is not putting trays together correctly, this is where you get in trouble, because you did not move Sharon. You did not check Sharon. You did not help Sharon to do things right. Hospitals don't necessarily, and that when we say hospitals, we're talking about the administrative suite. We're talking about human beings here. Don't know what we do. Therefore, they cannot quantify what we didn't do. And they can't say, oh, we think SPD didn't clean the instruments, because they really don't know.
Hold on, SGG. Hold on, SGG. Bring that back. Oh, my goodness. Bring that back. You said they don't know what we do.
They don't know what we do. Not only do they not know what we do, as a whole, sometimes they do not know the importance of what we do. That's why we're fighting now for more pay and for quality people. They, in their mind, I've had doctors say they thought instruments were disposable. They didn't know there was some people down somewhere doing some instruments. They hear the word SPD when things go wrong. This tray is dirty, SPD. But they really, most doctors don't even know where that is. They don't even have an idea what we do. They just know when they put their gloves and gown on and turn around and then they do the timeout, the instruments are being passed. They don't know there's a group of people who are specialists in following IFUs and processing these instruments for patient use over and over again. We don't throw them away.
That's right.
To help, we have to, as I've always done, you have to be part of surgical operating center. You have to go to the meeting with the physicians. You cannot allow the operating room director, manager to speak for SPD. You're part of the team. When they have the meeting, you need to be sitting there to explain what SPD's point or what their issue was, or what was my part in this problem? What was my part in this problem? Did I even have a part?
Right.
You see, and in order to do this, Dr. J, you have to understand the chain of infection, and that a patient can get an infection has nothing to do with SPD. They got the infection because somebody checked their incision with a dirty hand.
That's good.
So there's reasons that we have to follow this. It's just that it is easy, as I said in the beginning, to throw SPD under the bus because nobody knows where we are. And when you say SPD, then people be like, oh, SPD, SPD. But when you get people like me, you have people in the industry, when you get them up there now, and they're subject matter experts, and lawyers come and call me to the side and say, Ms. Golden, what do you think happened? I'm going to give my understanding as a subject matter expert. If they follow the instructions for use, if they can document and show you in documentation that the instruments were processed according to that, if the OR said when they checked the instruments, they were clean, there was no bioburden, everything was straight, then you can't say it was SPD. I can testify to that it wasn't SPD. The patient got an infection and they said SPD, but they take them off the table. It wasn't SPD. But you can't say that if you don't know that. And you can't say that if you haven't gone to meetings, infection control meetings, if you haven't gone to the surgical operating center meetings, if you haven't made the C-suite aware of what we do. Bring the C-suite to the SPD. They need to see from the dirty to the clean what we do. They need to understand you can't tell them all the standards, you tell them basic standards. The standards are, I'm supposed to follow these instructions, and according to these instructions, I need a sonic machine. We don't have one, sir. So we're never going to meet that need. And yes, instruments may get there dirty because we don't have a sonic, and the people said have a sonic. You make it plain, you document it, and then you're able to stand on what could have happened. I don't think that, and I want to say, most hospitals, let me just clarify this, do not call SPD in after the lawsuit has been filed. They call SPD in once the infection has been noted. Yep. And they ask you, how did you process these instruments? And that's when you're in the movie. You got to go get your documentation and prove that the standards, best practice standards, were met for that set of instrumentation. And that's why you can say we need tracking systems, sir. I can't tell you about these instruments because we don't have a tracking system. You let the people know. I can only tell you we ran them. I can't tell you if we ran them for that case. So there are a lot of components to this particular question that require that you take it apart. But understand, you have to know. I guess I can end with this. As a leader, you have to know the standards of your operating procedure so that you can stand behind what did happen. Not stay up there and stand there and say what had happened was. No, this is what happened in SPD. This is our part. Now go to the OR and find out their part. Go to the floor, find out their part. Go ahead. And then we put this puzzle together and we try to say, this is what we found out. But investigation is key. And you having the information for your part of the puzzle is paramount.
All right. So DJ, same question goes to you. And then I'll finish with this, and then we'll close this episode up. We have so much more to get into. It feels like every time we do these episodes, I just want to go for like 10 hours. No. But it's just so much for us to actually indulge in that we just got to give it to you all in pieces. All right. So DJ, same thing to you. Why do you think hospitals tolerate reactive patient safety instead of proactive SPD improvement?
So,
your perspective.
I have yet to go to a hospital where SPD is included in budget cuts, and we're always last to the table when it comes to needs. So budget constraints often have most sterile processing departments prioritizing immediate needs over preventative measures. So we're not able to plan out. We're not able to buy enough sets to support the increasing case volumes. We're often really doing making in the moment decisions due to budget constraints as it relates to being proactive and really planning for the future. And then lastly, with that sense of the second question, question 2, we're not often always included in a broader scale of the operation. So as Ms. Green Golden mentioned, when it comes to what caused the infection with that patient, that's when we're brought in on the lawsuit, because we're asked to talk about specifics and details and as to what could have caused this tray to be contaminated and infect the patient. So we can really go into further detail with that. I know in because of time, we won't dive too deep, but I can hand it over to you, Doc.
We'll bring this back next week.
Yeah.
Ignacio, let's bring this question back and the other 2 that we need to answer so we can dive into it a little bit more. But I want to bring a different perspective. Okay. And this is a perspective that comes from someone who hasn't been inundated like you all for, decade plus and on up in this space. And I hope that this actually hits some of you all's heart in a way that you maybe never seen it before. Just because it is your world and the only thing that you've learned as a specialist growing in a career doesn't mean that it's somebody else's world and you should expect for them to know. This is what I mean by that. I know we all say C-suite should know, executives should know, directors should know, but we also have to understand that if you ever looked at an MBA program, an MHA, Master of Healthcare Administration, and MPH, a Master of Public Health, those programs focus on finance, operations, policies, leadership, and strategy. And then when we talk about sterile processing, how they learn it, is usually in the context of infection control and supply chain management, not as a core area of study. And so when we talk about, even if you talk about clinical versus non-clinical leadership plans, Many CEOs, COOs, CFOs come from business, finance, administrative background rather than clinical or operational roles. You get your CMOs, your chief medical officers, your CNOs, your chief nursing officers, unless they've been in the surgical suite, most of them haven't had a direct experience with central sterile processing as someone who's come from the floor of surgery. Now, you may say it's unfair. They should know this. They should be aware of all of this, which I would say, you're right. They should. But if all things were shoulda, coulda, woulda, there's a lot of things that as adults we wish we knew, or we wish other people in different areas of our life dealing with even worse things than this should know. So what is our job to do is to take this versus assuming that they know, always take an educational approach. Let me tell you why this is important. When I go to the boardroom and I go and talk to the C-suite, your COO, your CFO, the president, the CEO, the CSP department feels like they have no heart, they're mean, they don't understand. But when I or Donnie or both of us talk to C-suite, they're hurt that this information wasn't given to them in their training. It's like a switch of a button that happens. And we take the educational approach. Hey, listen, I don't know if you know this, but let me tell you what you should have been taught and why and how it affects you. Before you know it, they're like, hey, y'all can take the full department. Y'all can help with this. What else do you recommend? Now, it does take a while for it to get trickled up to the C-suite. That's the hardest part. It's getting there. But if you care about what you do, you don't antagonize your way up there. Because I want you to imagine something. Imagine if you had an understanding of something. Let's say religious belief, sports, life, parenting, whatever. And you only grew up learning something one way. Like for me, I'll keep it light, SGG, is folding towels. My wife grew up learning how to fold towels the right way. So she said, it's just the right way. You fold towels this way, you put it in the thing, and it's like this. And for me, I'm like, folding, it's just folding. Like you just put them together. But to her, everything has an order and there's a reason for it. To me, I'm like, it's not really that big of a deal when you start thinking about how to fold towels. But when I start to realize it's not just folding the towels, it's also the clothes and how it fits in the closet and how the clothes fit in the drawer and how when you're doing this and doing this, it all has a reason as to why things work. It depends on how you deliver the information, which will determine how they take it, whether you're right or wrong.
Absolutely.
So if I go up antagonizing and talking crap, and you should know this, no one's going to give you the budget. But if I go up with an open heart and say, hey, y'all may not know this, like SGG says, hey, that's why I love when SGG talk. She talked from SPD Bible, Amy. And if you don't know any other scriptures, you better know Amy. you better know Amy or hire us to get SGG up in there. Hire Amy Pastor, SGG. She taking deals. We take honorarium, we take it all. We do it all. But because when I know the standards, I have to now teach the standards in a way that is palatable to everyone to receive it. And as long as they can receive it and they understand it and how it affects all the things that they were taught, it will behoove you the amount of things that change and how fast that change happens.
Right.
Once they understand.
It's all in presentation.
That's right.
If you present it as garbage, it's received as garbage.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. It's in presentation. I have dealt with the C-suite by not presenting it as garbage. If I'm in the hall and the CEO say, hey, Miss Golden, how you doing? How things in SPD today? I gauge the atmosphere and say, well, it's funny you should ask. Do you have time to come to SPD? Let me show you something. take him down there and say, we need this. Let me show you this. When I wanted the boroscope, the biggest thing I did was get the CEO to visit SPD. He came in, told everybody, hello, 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 hello. And I actually brought the boroscope over to him. And I said, because we were borrowing one, I said, we need one of these. It's about $3,000. He looked at me. I said, but this cannulated instrument, we cannot clean. And we don't know it's not clean because we can't see. He said, okay. I said, put your eye on the little thing. Let me show you. Can you see anything? He said, no.
Teach SDG.
We put the boroscope down, and on the screen it showed, the guy said it looked like Stranger Things. We was going, ah! 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 I said, but do you know, sir, that because we can't see this, we will process it. And the sad part is that whatever this is in there will probably loosen up in the middle of somebody's surgery and fall in their body.
You better teach.
And nobody's going to see it fall. Therefore, it stays in their body. And as they're trying to heal from surgery, they're getting sicker and sicker because we push this stuff into their body.
Come on.
He said, oh, as you said, go on over there and see, can you order one? Yes, sir, because this is going to put us in a better place.
That's right.
But it's all about knowing the presentation,
talk about
the right time,
and
being willing to share.
That's right.
I understand you don't know. I told my CEO, you don't have to know because I know. I need you to support me.
That's right.
You don't need to know. Just know when I come and say I need an ultrasonic, I need an ultrasonic. And understand I got the book and everything to back up why I need the ultrasonic.
Yeah.
So it is in presentation. And I said it all the time. If you present things as garbage, it is received as garbage and no one will ever do anything for you.
That's right. And then I do want DJ to finish with this, and then we got to close the show today. DJ, I know that in the field you deal with this a lot, where you will have an extremely talented leader as you're managing and guiding that can't get the thing done. They can't get upper leadership to back them. And then when you come and talk to them one time, two times, they bend heaven and earth to get it done for you. And you kind of said the same thing. So can you just close it with this? What is that difference that you believe that stops somebody who's really good at doing the job, maybe even being a leader, being a manager, being whatever, director, whatever, whoever you're overseeing? And how do you convey a different perspective to make them open their eyes and say, you know what? You're right, because you lead from an operational standpoint. SGG leads from a regulatory standard standpoint. I want them to hear your mind on the operational side.
Well, you have to have patience. Number one, I have patience. And then I think what I see in that individual is I have to assess, because it goes back to what Ms. SGG mentioned about knowing your that individual, knowing all about them, the way they think, what they're lacking, the qualities they have, and the qualities that they don't have, and really instilling in them and showing them, number one, the right way to do the job, the correct way to do it, giving them all of the resources and things to be efficient and be able to perform their duties the way they need to, because that will ultimately help with confidence, and then support them as they walk through each step of whatever it is that they're trying to learn and trying to adjust and trying to grow into, especially in the role of a leader. And then you have to show patience. You have to be able to understand that they're going to make mistakes. You have to understand that there are going to be trials and there are going to be challenges as it comes to the learning curve. But being willing to listen, being willing to guide them through whatever challenges they're facing in that moment. And I always say being able to show and lead and be that support as things change and as they continue on their journey, because it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge. You may not always have people that that's going to support them and have their best interest at heart in troubling times and in difficult situations. But I've learned to be patient and to recognize the good so that we can bring out the other attributes that we're trying to get out, especially as I'm being a leader in the operations, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. And then SGG, to close it out, what can you say to that person that is like, hey, you know what? I'm going to have higher standards for myself. I'm gonna hold myself accountable. I just need a push from SGG to get me to stop worrying about my own personal income or taking care of my family. I got a job to do. There are things that I'm seeing that are just I can't stand. What would you tell that person that really needs to hear? And Iggy, let's just get SGG on the screen.
I want to say that some things you have to do just for you. I worked in SPD for at least 15 years before I even got certified. I got certified for me. I decided I wanted higher standards. I worked it around my family budget, around my family things, the studying, everything I had to do. But I did that for me. I didn't do it for the hospital. I did it for me because I wanted to be a better person in what was going to be my profession. I think you have to decide what it is you want, where you want to be in that profession, and then you go for it. And you do what is necessary to keep climbing. And you don't let anybody sway you to say it's not important. A lot of people told me along the way, you don't need to be certified. Why would you? You don't have to do this. And I would tell them, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this to position myself for greater. Because I felt I was a good tech. I knew I was a good tech. But I wanted to be better. And I didn't always want to be a tech. I wanted to be able to climb the invisible ladder that wasn't even there. But I knew I needed to position myself for better. So position yourself for better. Listen to your mind as to what it is you want to be. And then seek mentors. We didn't do that back then. Seek someone who's like-minded, who's going somewhere, and follow them to better.
And now, so for you, DJ, thank you so much, SGG. My question to you as we end, you're talking to that person who it looks like his camera's out. Can you hear me, DJ?
Yes, sir. I hear you. You hear me?
His
I'm on.
camera's buffering. Oh, he's good. Okay. So this is the question I have for you, DJ. For that person, because I believe that your superpower is how even keel you are in pretty much every situation. And that person that is gung-ho about regulatory standards, that person is extremely about like, I gotta tell them, I gotta let everybody know because that's what I gotta do. But you have a beautiful balance of knowing when to say something, how to say it, so it's received in the way that you intend for it to be received. But for that person that is hard for them to actually deliver information that is palatable for different types of people, how would you help that person with knowing it's imperative for them to work on their communication skills and their EQ of reading the room so they can be able to get what they need actually approved and done? What would you say to that person that's struggling with that?
Well, first thing I will say is number one, understand when and how to take a break and to step back and remove yourself so you can gather your thoughts and to be able to think about your emotions at the moment and what you're going through. That's the first thing. So gather yourself, gather your thoughts, and then really think about the outcomes. Hey, if I explode, if I allow my emotions to show and display, will this help or hurt the situation? Once you really think about the situation you're in and your different approaches of how you should handle the situation, Run it by a mentor, a leader, your supervisor, your upline, and really seek guidance on the best approach to dealing or handling whatever it is you're going through. Myself, I had to learn that in the past. This hasn't always been my demeanor and my approach to things. Believe it or not, I'm very explosive at times, but however, I've had to learn how to balance and look at how does this impact everyone and all? How does it impact my job, my career? Do I want to be looked at as a person that is explosive and out of control or not in control? But then think about um, is this an opportunity to learn and to grow? Is this an opportunity for me to make something better or show as to what I need to do or what I can personally do to make this situation better? And then you gather your thoughts, write things down, and then practice how you express or how you deliver your message, and then deliver the message with confidence. Um, and I'm sure you can always learn from other folks and other mentors and leaderships. You hear me mention mentors a lot because it's important to have one, but always find someone that you look up to that can assist you through difficult situations and challenges.
And what I would say is if you are needing mentorship and you're like, Dr. Jake, I have some good technicians, I got some people that are good in the field, but I want to learn from people that are respected in the industry. I want to learn from people who have a track record of winning in this industry or in the space of business operations or in leadership. I'm always going to submit to you to join our community, the Executive Edge community. You can go to SPD911.com. and join our free community, our executive further. Y'all, we have curriculum and accredited certifications, leadership certifications that have already been implemented and established within some of the most prestigious hospitals all across the country. So if you're looking for leadership and partnership, you don't have to look any further. If you're not getting what you need where you are, you can join our programs in our community to get what you need from where you are. Join SPD911.com. You go to that site, you can register for the Executive Edge, and you can see what's going on and how we engage with each other for free. And if you want to take the next step, you can book an appointment and figure out what our SIPS Leadership Institute looks like. And if you want to wait just a little bit further before you make a decision on that, come on down to Scrubball. Go to scrubball.org. When you go to scrubball.org, SIPS, we are a proud main sponsor for the Scrubball Conference, which is a healthcare leadership conference. You get all your CEUs. You come here. We make sure that you get all your credits that you need for attending a conference. And then we also even allow help you with your letter to submit to your upline, submit to your hospital system to see if they will sponsor you as a leader coming to our conference. And we've done this every year. So Scrubball.org. When you participate in scrubball.org, you're going to be able to see and experience and meet great leaders face to face and be a part of leadership. It's a leadership specific conference. So all things you'll be able to get at our conference at Scrubball. And most importantly, don't forget, never give up on your development, because it's your development that we need to change the industry that we all love and depend on. This is Dr. Jake Taylor Jacobs, Sharon Green Golden, and Derek Jones Sr. And this is SPD 911, and we cannot wait to see you next week. Peace.
See you next week. Peace out.
Somebody going to jail.